Who are your favorite music artists right now? Can I take a guess?
Yeah.
You're a playlist guy.
What does that mean?
Some computer recommends you a bunch of songs based on your favorites, and a bunch more based on your favorites of those.
Right.
So you're listening to a bunch of music that you genuinely like.
Yeah.
But you have no idea who sings it. Now, these playlists, it's like the dating app for music. You're not hearing other people's voices. You're just hearing your voice get played back at you. How are you supposed to fall in love?
You're listening to The Night Before, a movie podcast. Each episode, we find a unique place in the city and share a drink and our thoughts about the movie we watched the night before. This is Lee, and I am joined, as always, by my husband, Jesse. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
We're back at it.
We're back at it.
New podcast.
New podcast on our back porch.
And at home edition.
Porchcast.
Porchcast only because we don't have time to talk a favorite place in the city, as your intro says. Our home has to be our favorite spot because we have 3 movies to talk about.
Well, our home is our favorite spot, technically.
Home is where the heart is.
Home is where the heart is.
Or the haunt, as American football says.
True. So we're home hanging out.
We got
cocktails.
some cocktails of our choice.
I got a Cosmo.
Bourbon and ginger ale. For music, we do have some music in the background because that is part of the... We can't have a quiet podcast.
No.
We have to have a reason to raise our voice.
Yes.
Like we're out in public somewhere.
Right.
And the music brings that. And plus, yeah, we can't have a clean sounding podcast background audio.
Right. That's not our style.
No. So today we're playing our Spotify Discover playlist, which we'll talk about the significance of that choice later when we get to the movie Vengeance. That's one of our movies.
So if you've already seen it, you already know what the significance is, right?
If you were paying attention.
Of course.
And not falling asleep when Ashton
couldn't have
Kutcher was going on about it.
How would you fall asleep?
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we're not talking about Vengeance first. Even though I know you want to, you've been itching at it for the last hour, 2 hours.
We have
since
3
saw
movies. We saw 2 movies last night, one just now. And
So we're going to talk
do
3, a
this
triple feature.
We've done a couple triple features. One we split into 2 episodes back in the day, early episode. But then we did one where we just like ran through them. When we did like Censor and...
I feel like we're going to spend more
Our
time on
Friend.
Vengeance, but we're going to go over the 2 movies we watched last night. It's going to be like 50-50. The first 50% is the 2 movies.
Are
The
you
second
wagering?
50% is Vengeance. No, just because I know what there is and is not to say about
You know what
some
I
of
was
the
thinking?
choices.
I should have prepped this before the podcast, but I had another thought
What?
for these 3 movies. I have like a this or that for each of the movies. Like, do you want this movie or that movie?
Okay.
For each of them that we'll do after we're done talking.
Okay.
And then I thought we should rank the 3 for second, third.
That's easy.
But then I was like, no, we should do that, like do a different rating system. Like which one, we got to pick out of the 3 movies. We'll have to do, just think about it while you're talking. Because we're thinking about this on the spot. Which one would it be like never watch, rent, never watch, stream, meaning it's only on a free stream, or rent, like you'll spend money to rent it.
Or go to the theater.
Or movie it.
There's 4.
Pay
really.
for it. Pay for it, stream it, avoid it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good 3.
We'll pick our 3 for that.
Okay. I like that.
It's based on that, like, you know.
Like the candy bars.
Well, no, the kill, marry, boink.
You've lost me.
There's that thing people say, like, it's like kill, marry, fuck.
Okay.
You say, like, which person would you kill? Which one would you marry?
Oh.
It's a thing people do.
Really?
Google it.
That's kind of sexist.
No, but you do it male or female.
Oh.
Like you would pick, oh, here's 3 actors. Which would you bump of each?
Which would you bump?
Boink.
Boink. Marry or kill?
Mhm.
I've never played that game before, but
I
now I'm in.
I haven't played it.
Can we do that with some of the actors from
No.
the movies and
'Cause then
actresses?
Because then it turns into Frank and Lola, and we saw what happens in that movie.
I kind of want to do it.
No, we're gonna do.
That'll be fun.
We're gonna do.
But girls, I could say, like, we could do girls, and I could say
Nah,
kill
only
Mary.
because that's played, is what I'm saying. It's cliche.
That's cliche.
I'm saying we're gonna
Why is it cliche
We're
when I've
gonna-
never even heard of it?
we're gonna rent, stream,
Gotcha. Okay.
delete, avoid.
Avoid. I like avoid, not delete. I'm not deleting the movie.
Yeah,
Maybe off your list to see. But
yeah. So out of these 3, 1 or potentially 2, if we don't agree on the same film, is just gonna be don't watch it.
right.
Wow.
We-
And we're gonna see because wait, we have 3 movies: Frank and Lola, which is streaming on Netflix, came out in 2016. Coherence, which is streaming on Amazon Prime for free, came out in 2013.
Okay.
And Vengeance, which is currently in
New.
theaters, which will probably be
2022.
which will probably be a rental any week now
Right.
for like $6.99, $5.99.
Came out like a week ago in theaters, right?
Yeah, it's fairly new release, but it's going to be on streaming services soon. That's just how, like within a month, you can rent something these days if it's a smaller movie.
Right. Yeah. We go
So what I'm
fast.
saying is when we do our
Movies move fast.
when we
these
do our
days.
rent, stream, avoid, we're just going to assume that even though 2 of those films are currently free streaming services, if you had to, it's worthy of a rental price regardless.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you're
I'm
saying.
saying because what I'm saying is
100%.
100%. What I'm saying is you could go to Netflix and stream Frank and Lola for free. Why would you rent it?
Correct.
But what I'm saying is if you had to rent it,
I 100% understand what you're
I
saying.
know. I'm just over-explaining.
You're mansplaining it to
I'm
me.
over-explaining it because that's what they did in Vengeance at the
Gotcha.
beginning with John Mayer.
Oh, okay.
But we're going to talk about that movie last.
Yeah, and we
'Cause I
can't
always
get away
believe-
from it. We can't stop talking about
Well, it's
it
the most recent movie in our memory.
in our heads. Yeah, it's true.
But I think we should talk about them in the order we saw them.
Let's do it. So we're starting with Frank and Lola.
Is this your go-to move or something? You just hook me in and make me believe that you're this gentleman.
I'm not playing games.
Oh, sometimes games can be fun. You really looked out for me. I'm not used to it.
I'll get used to it. Every morning when I wake up, first thing I think of is you.
Did you fall in love easily, Frank?
Hey, you look beautiful.
Oh, Frank.
Frank and Lola.
Oh, Frank. So many things I need to say to Frank
Well, let's
and Lola.
a bit of context. Frank and Lola
Oh, my.
is streaming on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest star in it is Michael Shannon, which I think he's one of those folks that most people have seen him and know him, but they don't.
Know his name.
You say Michael Shannon, and I don't think it clicks.
Yeah.
But the reason I selected it for us, or was on my queue, my radar, is because in the little Netflix preview, like Justin Long appears.
Oh, yeah. And we like him.
I mean,
Who doesn't like Justin
Kind of like a
Long?
BJ Novak. Vengeance's BJ Novak,
Yeah.
writer, director, star of
Okay, we're not
Vengeance?
talking about Vengeance yet. But
But
Justin
much like
Long, we
BJ
like
Justin Long, much like BJ Novak,
He's just your
They're just-
everyday guy.
they're likable guys.
They're likable, everyday guys. They're not mega stars. But they're relatable, funny. Your average
Yeah.
white
You're
guy.
like-
Average white guy.
You're like, as a male, you look at BJ Novak, you look at Justin Long, and you go,
Okay.
with a little bit of extra hard work and perseverance and the right connections in life, I could be there. I could be that guy.
You could be him. That's what I'm like.
Yeah.
They're relatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're And when you see them, you're like, oh, I probably want to see that.
Non-threatening.
You know,
Kinda
whatever
funny.
it is that they're in, they're kind of like, okay, yeah, I know that guy. He's funny.
You're like-
He's enjoyable.
You're like, huh? Justin Long wants to do this?
okay,
He said, yeah.
I'm in.
Which Justin Long could probably benefit from a paycheck.
The last movie that we saw, I really liked him.
Lady-
in. It was
Lady
the
of-
one that was filmed in Tampa.
The Lady of the Manor.
I really liked that
His
movie.
brother, Justin Long's brother, directed that.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. We didn't podcast about Lady of the Manor.
Even though they acted like they were in Savannah, but they were in Tampa. But that's okay.
There was a story on Letterboxd, someone's review about meeting Justin Long in Starbucks in Tampa.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was just one of those moments where he was ordering a coffee at Starbucks.
Starbucks. He doesn't know where to go
I
for
know.
coffee in Tampa?
Well, there was another interview I read that they did go to some of the Tampa spots. Blind
Okay.
Tiger.
Yeah.
Well, his co-star, I forgot her name, she went to the better spots, it seemed. Justin Long was like, oh, I went to the Columbia. And I'm like, of course you did.
Well, he's just going where people tell him
Yes,
to go.
I mean.
There's nothing wrong with the Columbia, but there's
Except
lots
there's
of good
so many other
spots.
places in Tampa to go
Yeah.
besides the one place everybody goes.
Yeah.
It's like, anyway. So I clicked on it, even though I know Michael Shannon, and the other thought is, oh, Michael Shannon typically puts in really good performances and good movies. Justin Long, which is clearly whoever picked that clip for Netflix preview knows what they're doing. The scene is all about Justin Long.
Yeah, he's in it a lot. Yeah.
That clip, but the movie
However,
Justin
in the movie, he's not in
he
it
has
as much.
a bit part, and he has a bit of a.
I mean, he has a few parts, but it's not. He has reoccurring parts throughout, but he's not in the whole thing.
And I really appreciate he's sort of like a red herring throughout the movie.
He's a bit of an ass. Like not real likable, but not a huge asshole.
No, he's meant to, but that's what I'm saying. Because he plays that way, his character is a red herring,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that term. I'm thinking like
I
someone that stands out.
I appreciate your honesty.
A red herring is a bird.
So he plays, well, that's the thing, he
And
plays
it's red.
he plays a bird throughout the movie. No, I'm joking.
I mean,
No.
explain your use of that
I'm not going to give
that
the Oxford
metaphor.
I'm not going to give the Oxford Dictionary definition of red
Okay,
herring.
Okay.
So I apologize if I'm slightly off. A red herring, in layman's terms,
Are you calling me a layman?
no, me. I'm explaining my definition, I have a good enough understanding of red herring.
So, okay.
Good enough
Go
to
for
use it in a sentence, hoping you would pick up and go with it.
No, I didn't.
But you didn't. No, red herring is, as I take a sip to get some liquid courage for my explanation.
Are you afraid what I'm going to come back with?
No,
Oh.
our mighty legion of listeners
Oh.
and their
Okay.
judgmental thing. No, it's a distraction. It's meant to lead you on a certain path, the red herring.
Oh, right.
You're thinking this character has one thing. So as the viewer,
yeah,
you
that's
are
true.
thinking he's trouble, he's something else. He's the red herring.
Yes.
It's a distraction from it. It's not true. He's not
He's
what
not,
you think he is.
He's not in it to win, to be evil. He's not in it for bad.
Yeah, the
for-
red herring is it
You think one thing
Yep.
about him at first,
Yep.
that this is the path it's going, and he's in it for the wrong
it's
reasons.
meant to lead. It's meant to you, the viewer or reader, if it's a book, to put you on a different path
But
on purpose.
he's actually just, it is what it is.
It's
He
a
is
trick.
what he is.
You're the red. It's the red herring.
Why is that red herring? Is that what red herrings do? What's that term? Like, what's
I mean,
the
we're not like I said. We weren't going to get into the
relationship
weeds of
between
red
a red
herrings.
herring? Is it a distractor? Maybe a red herring is a distractor for prey or something.
Send us messages on Instagram at Night Before Podcast.
Okay,
Um,
let's move on
school
from
us.
that. But you're
No,
right.
so one, I jumped in the movie Frank and Lola because of Justin Long, his likability.
So his red herringness got
When he
you
was
hooked.
introduced, I kind of rolled my eyes, like, oh, I see what he is. He is because Frank and Lola, it's about Frank and Lola, these two characters.
Their relationship.
They fall in love quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but
She's much younger than him.
15 years difference.
Mm-hmm.
And jealousy
Grips Frank.
takes control of the relationship. Yeah, Frank for the moment, but even
Lola.
the Lola
kind of has an
she
unusual
has her
attachment
commitment.
to him.
She has her commitment issues. And early on, they introduce Frank. No, they introduce Justin Long's character as this potential threatening presence in their relationship.
Right.
It deals with her work. It deals with her advancing her career. And he is...
Even her status, like money-wise, family,
and
you know.
Yeah, and he's worried about the Justin Long character.
Mm-hmm.
He's
jealous.
He's jealous. He's untrusting of
that Justin
Lola.
Long is in it to like give her an opportunity because he wants something from her,
Even
like
though
sexually
Justin
or
Long,
relationship
right away,
wise.
when he first meets her, an officer, like the job interview, not the job interview, and it's just a random chance encounter at a bar, which is suspect.
Right.
He right out and says, I don't mess around with my employees. Like, if you're thinking I'm trying to pick you up, I don't do that.
Right.
But again, is that just a line? Is that a bit?
To get her in, yeah. You
So,
never know.
Frank obviously
Men
thinks
can
it
be
is.
wolves.
Frank thinks it is. And so, positives about Frank and Lola?
Okay.
Is that whole idea of grappling with, especially on the male perspective, the jealousy element, the worry and anxiety that if you're with an attractive female for your mate, talented, charismatic, social, that she is going to be not only wooed away but taken by some other male.
Someone else, yeah.
And Frank...
That she can't sit at a bar and have a conversation with a man without it being something sexual, something...
But Frank's intuition is kind of correct 80%, 90% of the time.
But not with Justin Long. He
That's
wasn't
what I mean.
in it for that.
It's the red herring, but this movie is ridiculous.
This movie is so ridiculous. At one point...
That bird squawking is ridiculous.
That's part of the porch podcast. At one point in the movie, I thought, this is dumb. We gotta turn this off. I can't do this any longer. And then I went to the bathroom and came back.
You're like, oh, this movie's drastically changed. After I come to the bathroom, I'll just accept the new reality.
Severe emotional issues with both of them. Not just with Lola, but with Frank too. You want to be like, Frank, how old are you? Wake up. Like, what are you doing?
He's with a hot young thing.
So what? Like, there are other women. He's a professional chef. He's, for his age, I guess you would call him somewhat good looking.
He's a professional chef, but he's an untrained chef. So, like I said,
he
there's
has
elements.
A lot of insecurity.
There's elements of a good movie here. He's the backbone's there. He's a non-traditionally trained chef. He taught himself. He didn't go to. He doesn't even say he went to culinary school. He said I didn't go to cooking school. Like he doesn't. He's not even cultured enough to know to say the word like culinary school.
He's uncultured. He doesn't. I mean, and the unrealistic part also is that he's sitting here working in a kitchen as the main chef and trying to get a job as the main chef. It seems like work is like not a priority to him.
Well,
and if you're in that world, it is your life.
It isn't it? Yeah, I agree. But for Frank, well, we meet him at a point when he meets Lola at his restaurant. He's vulnerable. He is the head chef of a restaurant that gets sold. So he's and they bring in a new chef. So he's back on his own. And he's now a chef for hire for these rich
ladies.
Homes.
Like catering.
Yeah,
ladies,
catering.
Like
he's
dinner
catering
parties.
dinner parties. So he's reduced back to just kind of being a servant.
And it's humiliating to him.
Yes.
To do that, but he pays the bills.
But he's a natural talent at the same time. And he is divorced.
Right.
So he's already had a fail. So he's been in these points where he has worked hard and persevered to get where he wants. But you're
He's
right.
experienced a lot of failure.
And he
as well.
lacks the confidence or foundation or even credentials
To do what he's doing.
to just instantly get into a new thing. And then even someone like Lola, a young, more free-spirited woman, is intimidating to him.
Right. I mean, she's scary because he's not confident that she's going to be committed to him, and because she's beautiful, she's talented, her family has money.
Yeah, she comes from money.
Yeah.
And he doesn't.
And he doesn't.
So all those elements are there. It's just that this movie takes... And that's really what I thought we were signing into, a movie, and that's even what the Netflix preview presented, that this was that story with the threat of something like a Justin Long coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
stealing her
one
away.
of these lover triangle films.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, it turns into this, like,
Dumb.
over-the-top thriller.
It's not really a thriller.
Well, no, he goes to France. I mean, we won't get into all the spoilers, but he like goes to
He
France
literally like flies back and forth to France and like it's nothing.
to vengeance might be a theme of our podcast, minus coherence.
To find the man who supposedly raped his girlfriend, which she tells
Lola.
him in a way to keep him after she's caught being at a hotel room with him. We find out, but someone.
Yeah.
She doesn't say it's him, but this older man.
Well, she has an older relationship still lingering.
An old relationship, yeah.
And then it turns into this weird revenge movie.
Yeah.
And he's going to like
try to kill him.
Kill or torture and it's like this weird, and even nowadays, I mean, we're in this like cultural shift where it's like, oh, you need a man, like he's like this father figure for Lola too at the same time, where he has to go like
fix things
for
her.
And protect her, and
yeah, that was annoying to me.
You know, he's like but
what?
Then also the weird thing, the guy in France is even older than Frank.
Well, she has daddy issues, obviously. But here's the thing, though. What's annoying is that I'm like, Frank, come on. Like, it's the same thing as when someone cheats on someone else and then you're mad at the man. Like, say a woman cheats on a man.
You're mad at the
You're
other
mad
person.
at the man. It's like...
You're not your mate. You're mad at the person,
right.
the other one.
And at the same time, it's like... Well, why are you going across the country to kill this man for wronging her when she has wronged you? Like, I know she has baggage, but you're not going to fix her baggage.
Yeah, your problem is sitting across from you.
Your problem is right there.
Yeah.
Like, it's like just y'all aren't going to work this out. You don't have even a long enough history to try to work it out.
That's the other thing. It's a fairly new relationship.
Yeah, it's like, obviously this is slightly too difficult. So I don't know why it's...
It's funny, like early on, I was just like, oh yeah, they just need to break up.
Yeah.
You're in the early stages. Get out. You guys aren't in the right time for each other.
Yeah, I'm like... Anyway.
So I think at the core, there's some like good ideas here.
Yeah.
Because even this idea of the movie later on, they talk about the core of this idea is it just goes over the top ways to show it. Is once like a rottenness, because they even use the term like rotten. We are rotten, right? Once a rottenness enters into a relationship, it's hard
to fix it,
to get rid of it.
And that's with any. Right. I think that's true.
And so the movie at its core has this neat, interesting message of like once someone's entered this disease or toxicity or rottenness within a relationship, it's always there. No matter how much you try to scrub or remove it, it'll always be there a little bit. So
Always.
can you live with it or not is the question.
And is it worth living with or not?
And the movie doesn't fully explore that. It
No.
introduces that idea, which I thought was interesting. That's one thing I liked about it. Like I said, this movie has some neat things. The rottenness concept was definitely there. Like even if like true rottenness doesn't happen, the thought or idea of rottenness is enough to spoil a relationship.
Agreed.
And this movie just said, let's not only introduce that idea, let's just go crazy with it.
And I can't find. I agree that's an interesting concept. However, the way they played that out to me was just like, I just like looking at both characters. I'm like, they're both stupid. Like, they're just both stupid. Like, it's one thing if things are happening and one is cheating on the other and they're explaining and going back and then making the same mistake all over again. If it's one is like completely unaware of what's really going on. They're both kind of aware of each other and to a certain degree, and they still just keep making dumb decisions to like go back and try this. The stupidity of it was overwhelming.
So my question is though, if you don't go ridiculous, right, you end up with a movie like A Marriage Story,
Right.
which plays it straight and easy.
Which is
Something like
good. A Marriage Story is good.
something like
You don't end up with a marriage story from what we watched.
something like Frank and Lola turns into like WTF. It's somewhat more entertaining though. Like if you want to take a minute to like we definitely had those couch moments. Like what is going on? Like what are we even watching?
Yeah.
Marriage Story is just like, oh, this is heavy, man. This is deep. This is deep. Relationships hard. So.
Okay.
My point is, yeah, Frank and Lola is ridiculous. You know what it reminded me of?
What?
And it's
Frankie and Johnny.
No, I made the joke about Frankie and Johnny.
Oh.
It wasn't Frankie and Johnny. A genre of movie that I do appreciate. I'm not saying I like.
You appreciate a lot of
I do.
genres of movies.
And if things are kind of bad, I appreciate them more. What I call the steamy thriller, right?
Okay.
The steamy thriller is some sort of lover triangle issue movie. It's supposed to be a little kind of sexy and steamy.
Okay.
This movie hinted at.
I get that.
This movie hinted at the beginning that
okay.
this is a steamy
So
thriller.
if that's what's going to make it good, I agree. I like steamy.
Steamy thrillers are like Basic
Wasn't
Instinct.
steamy enough.
Exactly. It lasts.
It needed more steamy.
Basic
Needed
Instinct.
more steam.
Basic Instinct is a steamy thriller. It's the penultimate.
Then bring in more nudity, more sexual tension, more of all of that.
But steamy.
And then I might have been like, "Whoa, okay,
Steamy thrillers are they're supposed to be a hard R. This was not a hard R.
No.
Steamy thrillers are supposed to be ridiculous and over the top. This was ridiculous and over the top.
Without the steam.
And steamy thrillers are supposed to be about a relationship between two people that falls apart through it all, right? This was a thriller without the steamy. It's like lowercase steamy. Only the opening scene was steamy.
That's
Remember
it.
the Voyeurs?
And then the video that he played.
Yeah, the video scene.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
This was like the Voyeurs is a textbook steamy thriller.
Yeah, I like that.
That was it's on Amazon.
I mean, not the best movie in the world.
No, it was
but
not
I
good.
enjoyed the steamy thrillerness of it.
As a steamy thriller, the Voyeurs.
I like a steamy thriller.
That was about the
lacked-
Voyeurs. For those who haven't seen it, is about the young couple who gets an apartment and then across.
Right. So this wanted to be that, but it lacked enough thrillerness and not enough steaminess.
Yeah, but remember the Voyeurs? It was.
Yeah.
They could observe the apartment across the street with the windows open, and steamy things would happen through the window, and then eventually like a murder happens.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
But it also gets ridiculous and over the top and nonsensical, like Frank and Lola.
Which is kind of what the whole Kristen Bell thing is.
Which is making fun of.
Based on,
that Netflix series that should have been a movie but wasn't.
Yeah.
or what was it, Amy Adams?
Oh, that movie.
The actual movie. We podcast about that one.
I like that one.
So anyway, Frank and Lola was supposed to be a steamy thriller.
That lacks steam.
Yeah. So my comparison, we should probably move on, Frank and
Yeah,
Lola.
let's move on.
So would you pick, or either or for
A
this
boy.
movie is The Voyeurs or
Voyeurs.
Frank and Lola?
100%.
I agree, The Voyeurs.
100%.
The Voyeurs.
The Voyeurs.
They both are ridiculous movies, but if you want to see the ultimate steamy thriller
The Voyeurs.
of late,
Not Frank and Lola.
The Voyeurs, and I think that's an Amazon original film.
And I can't say anyone was really a good actor or actress in Frank and Lola.
No, Justin Long was Justin Long.
Oh,
He
Justin
was great.
Long was good.
Michael Shannon was good.
I don't think so. You know what? Give me a steamy thriller. Michael Shannon, take off your shirt. Take off your pants. Okay?
Excuse me.
I mean, really. But he looked too old to me. He looked old to me.
Coherence.
Okay.
Listen,
We're
I'll be
moving.
down at the pyramid. Come on down and join me. We're going to talk about some deity stuff.
Does everyone else still not have service?
I haven't even checked.
My phone is completely broken.
I'm living in the moment, but
Nothing.
I got 0.
It's weird. Maybe the tower's down.
I'm sure I have none.
The tower's down?
No.
Like,
I mean, it's not
telling you
functioning.
guys.
It's not down.
that would be a big news story.
Comet. Comet.
The comet in the tower?
Wheeler's comet.
Yes. Thank you.
Comments.
Or the
I read something this morning about a comet in the 1930s. It was in Finland.
knocked out. Knocked out all of the cell towers in 1930.
Actually, it was in 1923. And yes, it was in Finland. It was actually crazy because it affected the people.
All right.
They would.
So now we're going to talk about Coherence. This is a whole nother ball game.
We watched it like
Late.
20 minutes after Frank and Lola.
20 minutes?
I'm just.
I
yeah.
mean, like the same night. Yeah.
Yeah. Just giving context. It's like a double feature.
I don't know if it's that quick, but yeah.
It was stretch your legs, go to the restroom, get a snack. Next movie.
Okay.
So I picked Coherence. I always.
Sorry.
Sometimes I like to explain why we watch things.
Okay. Why? Do you feel it needs a justification?
Well, what reason would you pick a random 2013 movie to watch?
I don't know the reasons that you pick movies. I mean, on occasionally you'll pick one because you know I've mentioned wanting to see it. But then that, you spend so much time scrolling through and, what's the word?
Doom scroll?
No.
Searching?
No. It's a better word than that I'm thinking of, and I can't think of it. Like selecting, pulling out, categorizing, kind of saving
Yep.
movies you think. There is an actual word for all of that, and I can't think of the word right now, but
Curating.
curating. Yeah.
Look at that.
You spend so much time curating
That's a
movies
That's a nice
that
word to use.
I don't even question it typically, unless it's some like slasher movie that I'm like,
Yeah, it's a combination between curating, like looking to see what all your options are, right? It's like you're at a buffet table
Mhm.
and you're taking it all in. But sometimes you're like,
Who loves a buffet table?
there's the stroganoff. I just want
Nobody.
stroganoff right now. I'm going for it.
Yeah, when you have too many options, it feels like too
But
much
sometimes you just get impulsive and you dive in.
to everything.
These two movies, Frank and Lola, these have been things I've been watching from a distance. Like Frank and Lola, I was like, it's going to happen at some point. I'm not sure when.
And then some of it is just the feeling of the evening.
Exactly, in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Coherence.
You're like, do you think she'll go for a slasher movie tonight or no? Nah.
Coherence. One, I thought you might be like dozing off and going to sleep, so I'll just like put this on. And then you sort of woke up for it, and we're kind of sucked in.
I was. Oh yeah,
Initially.
I definitely was. I was sucked in by the conversational style of the movie.
Right?
Kind of reminded me of whenever you would sit down for a second and watch like Parenthood, and you'd be like, they're all talking over each other.
It had
They're all talking at the same time.
It had a
element of very realness of like being in amongst people that didn't realize they were filming you.
Fly in the wall.
Yeah. Like real kind of conversations that people would have that weren't scripted.
Yeah.
No, it had that feel. So that was interesting to me.
And also the way it's filmed, it feels like, I mean, we're used to everything kind of having like kind of like a digital video feel.
Mm-hmm.
But given that this was 2013, at the time, it wasn't quite as prevalent as it is. Like everything's filmed on video now for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have that camcorder look, but it feels like the frame is zoomed in slightly too close on everything.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like someone literally
literally
to quote Rob Lowe, has a camcorder in their hand. You almost the whole time you're watching it, you're like,
can you back
someone's
up
sitting in the room like filming this with a camcorder in their hand. Could they zoom out just a little bit or take 2 steps backwards?
At the beginning, at least, for sure. It feels like you're in the dinner party, in the conversation. You're part of the crowd.
It feels like...
Are you mocking me?
I like that we keep saying that. It feels like someone recorded an evening and you're sitting back and rewatching it like, let me show you about Saturday night. You got to see this.
Right.
We had some folks over for a dinner party. We recorded it. Let me show you. And you're like, what am I watching?
Yeah, they're all just having random conversations.
The first 10 minutes, you're like, it is that. It's slightly zoomed in too close. It has this lo-fi indie feel where everybody's talking over each other. You can't really, you're trying to pick up conversation. And it's doing these weird, somewhat unnecessary, but necessary to break up the monotony of the just full room conversation. It does these cuts, right? People are talking, they're chatting about something as they're prepping for the dinner party. And then it cuts to black for a second, and then it comes right back, right?
We say dinner party, we just mean like people at a house having dinner.
It's for
like friends.
It's
for
couples getting together.
At a kind of just nice but middle class house having
a craftsman style bungalow house.
Yeah, so we don't mean dinner party like nice over the top dinner party.
No, but they live
This is like they're cooking dinner.
They live in a nice craftsman's bungalow in California somewhere.
Yeah. Young people, but not too young.
Not young, no, 30s, 40s.
35 to 45.
35 to 45.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying it does these unnecessary cuts where everybody's chatting. Did you hear what Michael and Lee are doing or whatever they say, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking about something gossipy almost.
Yeah.
Did you hear? Then it cuts to black for a second, and then it comes back. And they've only advanced like 20 seconds into the conversation.
Right.
It's not like they cut to black and...
It's the next day.
It's next day, or it's even
a different
10
place.
minutes later.
Yeah.
Like they're in the kitchen talking, and then it cuts to black.
But now then they're
the
introducing the new couple that arrives.
Yeah, no, it's... She's slicing up an avocado. It cuts to black, and then it cuts back, and she now just has the avocado slices on a platter.
Yeah.
Like it's those kind of cuts. But I think that's mainly just to break up. It would be easy to get into a lull of monotony for that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to spend the first 10 minutes or so of this movie
figuring out how it's being filmed.
And just adjusting.
Getting used to that.
Getting used to it.
Yeah. And that is actually what drew me in.
Yeah.
The film style.
It's disorienting.
Yeah, it's slightly disorienting. You're trying to figure out what's going on. You kind of feel...
Well, it feels low budget.
And the characters, I would say the women more than the men. The women are very unique and you're drawn to
Each
them.
woman character has her own
Unique
distinct
style
look, style, characteristics. The
The
men,
men all blend
together.
together. It's like, except for the older man.
well, except for the older man, and except for me at least, the actor Nicholas Brennan, who I know very well, and
Which
some
one
of
is
our
that?
listeners might know very well. He played the role as Michael, the
No,
alcoholic.
see, I feel like he blended in with
he
the
was
others.
in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I
He
agree.
played-
I
he
know.
played
I don't
Xander.
know him that well, but to me, he looked like two of the other characters.
Agreed, but
like all the
but
men kind of.
for me and
look the
anybody
same.
who's like a Buffy fan,
Right.
know him as Xander.
So what I'm saying is, though, the women drew me in more than the men. Like the women were
No, the men, except for
unique.
the older man, the other three men, they looked almost identical.
Yeah, they did, which was
Three
weird.
white males.
Yeah. There was no like diversity thought of bringing into this film.
But to be fair, right?
They're
Hey,
just
this-
like suburban.
This was before, like, hey, we need diversity in film. And that was kind of part of the awareness of just when you're trying to make something.
the relatableness of it.
But to be fair, I mean, as much as we want to be representative for stuff, that's
how most of America.
how we operate, which Vengeance kind of touches on that cultural divide within things.
Or a lot of people operate.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone.
But Coherence, I learned of this film, even though I've kind of seen it, heard it talked about, I've ignored it, that this was a lo-fi sci-fi movie that was really, really good, that one should watch it. So that was my impulse to just watch it.
I could see
Last
that. I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it could be classified as a lo-fi sci-fi for
Lo-fi
sure.
sci-fi.
For sure. I mean, definitely. Putting the adjective or adverb really in front of good.
Good. But here's
is-
the thing.
I mean, I thought it was good and enjoyable, and I was sucked in. After a while, it got a little tiresome to me.
Was it tiresome because it was asking a lot of you to
I
to
think
follow
so.
along what was
yeah,
happening?
I think so. For a Friday night, it was asking me a lot. It was
For-
asking a lot of me.
for a Friday night as your second feature?
Yeah. It was asking a lot of me to figure out what the hell I was looking at.
So the Coherence, for those who aren't, it does get into some heavy, like, theoretical, multi-universe, parallel universe stuff.
Yeah.
And again, here's the credit. This multiverse is now just like,
thing
it's a
now.
thing in our
But
vernacular.
this was a long time ago.
Between Doctor Strange and Everything Everywhere at Once,
Mhm.
everybody's like, oh yeah, I know all about multiverses, right? But multiverse really wasn't a
Thing
a
back then.
phrase
And this
back
was
then.
filmed in 2013.
Yeah, parallel universes or parallel dimensions were more the string theory. There's the idea of like string theory, right? Here, I'll mansplain for a minute, right? String theory is this idea.
Using my term from earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it applies to Vengeance.
Gotcha.
String theory is this idea, right? That there's all these different universes. Like I
Uh-huh.
can wave my hand and I'm passing myself through multiple universes right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it all comes from string theory.
Right. Okay.
And so Coherence deals a lot with string theory and a lot with Schrodinger's cat.
Mhm.
The idea that there's a cat in a box with
Right.
cyanide.
They
It's-
explain that in the.
Yeah, and they go to lengths to explain all the science, right? That
Yeah.
the cat is both alive and dead at the same time. Both realities exist.
I did like that they made the most knowledgeable person the blonde girl in the movie.
Yeah, I love it. She's like, they're at dinner table. She's like, "So I've read."
So this
she
is
does.
what I've read.
She did a lot of like
Explaining.
So I've read.
Yeah.
A lot of woman-splaining in
Yeah.
this movie.
But at least they picked a woman.
Yeah, right. It's not the dude. It's not the dude. And all-
Explaining everything to everybody.
and
Or
all
the
the-
older professor looking.
Yeah, all the
guy.
dudes in cargo shorts are like what? Right? But she's also the character who has the most
connection.
I was going to say connection.
Not
I was going to
spiritual,
say
but
most regrets in her life.
True.
About not making the right decisions in life.
She does.
Right? Her life could have gone on different paths
Uh-huh.
if she had made different choices.
She does have more regrets. Yeah.
So, though it's a little bit heavy-handed, she portrays herself as she's those decisions she has made, those choices, weigh heavy on her.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think at its core, this
So-
movie explores like the different paths you
So
could
you
take in
might
your
think
life.
people that's the case in their lives, whether, I mean, everybody has some level of regret, but if have a heavy level of it, you may lend towards more seeking of kind of sci-fi conspiracy theory type things, maybe.
Yeah. Well, so
I don't know, to kind of explain why your life hasn't turned out the way you anticipated it to, or choices have, I don't know. That's how it seemed to me in the movie.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying that that's kind of how it seemed.
Well, it's a fascinating movie in the fact like a comet is flying over their house at the moment, like their
Like
area.
a major comet, like back in the day when there was Halley's
like
comet.
Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
And so this major comet is causing a disruption in just reality.
So their internet goes out, like glass is breaking, phones are breaking.
Their power goes out.
Yeah.
So if they leave their house or the box, right?
Right.
It opens up all the other realities
Or the
of their life
multiverses. Yeah.
exist. So the movie plays with all these, and it can be a little brain melty. Like you never know who's who. So there's all these interactions with different.
So it's kind of when they leave the house,
They
have the potential of going in a different house, which is a different reality, and not coming back to the house that they originally were in.
So outside of their house are all the different realities that exist of them.
Yeah.
And so it explores these ideas of
Seeing yourself.
Different choices you make, different behaviors you make. And even as the viewer, you don't even know who's who anymore because people constantly leave the house when the comet's overhead. And people come back and you never know if it's just
The original person or a person from a different reality.
different reality. And it gets so convoluted, which I think is the fun part of this movie.
I agree it is fun, but some of it was like tiresome. I was like, okay. Like, I like how it ended though. I do have to say.
Yeah, no, I did too. But it
it brought something to the table when it ended. I was like, okay, this is a good ending.
Well, it brings the question of if you can pick your own, you shouldn't be able to pick your own reality. And
yeah, right.
You have to live with your choices.
Right.
Which
right.
It does present
Which is
that
the
question
theme of
of
the movie.
The dangers of trying to control your own destiny.
Create your reality.
Or create
Control
it.
it.
Or steal it. So, like, thematically, that was the good message by the end. Though it gets very confusing at some point, but at the same time, I think it's a good and bad thing. You never quite know who's who anymore. It's kind of like the movie The Thing, like where you don't know who is an alien or who's the real person.
Right.
Like, do you know your true self or not true self?
Right.
So the movie does a really good thing of leading you down that path. But at the same time, it quickly resolves it for you so you don't, if you're not figuring it out enough, like who's who, like who's the real person, who's the fake person. The bad part is it kind of also just sweeps that under the rug. Like it doesn't really matter who's who. Right? The movie spends 75% of its time trying to teach you nobody is who they are seem, right?
Right.
This house is now mixed of multiple versions of each other. But it's okay if you didn't keep track of it because at the end of the day, it all deals with the blonde woman and her journey.
And the fact that some people are I think that's significant though, in the fact that some people are like, where at one point she says, these are not, that's not your husband, that's not your whatever.
Yeah.
And some of the people in the room were like, I don't care.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, we're just going to keep it the way it is.
My favorite line is Nicholas Brennan, because there's a little subplot early on that he slept with one of the other characters' wives.
Right.
My favorite line in the whole movie is he says, like, regardless of all the different realities, the 1,000 different realities, in all of them, I slept with your wife.
True.
Right? Because they're having this breakdown of this fight.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not even mad at me. I'm not the one who really did it. You're mad at a different version of myself. But in all of the realities, it happened regardless. It was going to happen. Like, it was unavoidable.
It was fate. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my favorite line.
But the weird thing is, when it was alluding to that he had done something he regretted and stuff, the whole time I didn't think it was with her.
Mm-hmm. Well, he said Beth, the gray hair woman.
Yeah. No, I know it was with her, but no, in the beginning when it alluded to him,
Yeah.
I didn't think it was with her.
So Coherence was definitely one of those, like, so remember I said the comparisons, right? Everything Everywhere at Once, like the multiverse movie, might be the more obvious comparison, but I think it's something closer in style and approach to something like The Endless.
I know I saw that, but I can't think of
The Endless is where everybody's in those time loops.
Oh, yeah.
And though these aren't time loops, they're different realities. It reminded me a lot of The Endless as well. These different, like, you're watching it, and as the viewer, you're trying to figure out just what it all means. I felt Coherence was nice in the fact, again, it's good and bad. You could kind of figure out things just as the characters were figuring it out.
Yeah. If you paid attention.
Mysteries weren't
really
introduced.
Had to pay
yeah.
attention.
And I would say, like, oh, wait, that's, this glow stick mechanic. Like,
or just their personality or the way they acted, which I feel like was really good acting-wise. There was, like, something slightly off with the actor, slightly different.
Yeah, no, they did a really good job. Subtle little character changes that the director, the direction the actors were given were like, hey, you're not the actual person anymore. You're a different version of that person.
But only slightly different.
But you retain, enough.
There's something different about you, and this is what it is, and that has to somehow reflect in your personality.
So it presented this fascinating story of, though someone is kind of the person they're not that person.
Right.
So do you trust them, love them, stay with them? Like, does any of it matter if it's a different person?
Right.
And the movie, like...
And is it a different person, or is it that person has experienced a different reality?
Yeah, right?
It's not really a different person.
Yeah.
It's that the person's reality or experiences are different.
And then there's, like, this thing of, like, right? It's like back to Adam and Eve, like, right? Knowledge, information is the poison, kind of like Frank and Lola, right? The more you know about something, the more you're sort of poisoned. Right? Because what this movie starts to present all the different realities. As they learn more about their situation, they disintegrate and fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
The couple, the group, the dinner party, the 8 of them that are the most oblivious and ignorant are the happiest, right? Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So they're not aware of the whole comet thing. They're like, oh, cool, a comet.
And she's like, the blonde girl's like, I want to go back to ignorance.
I want to live in ignorance.
I don't want to know, you know?
Which Frank and Lola, ignorance would have maybe saved their relationship.
Let's say a lot of marriages exist on ignorance is bliss. Am I right?
No, I agree. So,
True.
So what Coherence did really well for such a low budget type film that you might dismiss it on its first 10 minutes is a really captivating movie. Which is what good sci-fi should. Good sci-fi films shouldn't be about aliens or spaceships or robots.
I agree.
good sci-fi
I liked the whole comet theory thing.
is supposed to open up bigger questions about
Yeah.
humanity, like the human
I
condition.
liked that there was no aliens or monsters or much violence at all,
No.
except for the little fight here or there between.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that about the movie. I don't like sci-fi as a genre, but I liked this.
That's why I connected it to The Endless, right?
Yeah,
The Endless
but
is
I like
another
The
one.
Endless too.
You watch it, and it's just these bigger questions emerge, as well as just the theories of trying to
Yeah.
unravel it
I
all.
guess I like lo-fi. What'd you call it? Lo-fi.
Lo-fi sci-fi.
Sci-fi?
Yeah, lo-fi sci-fi.
I guess I like lo-fi sci-fi as a genre in general then.
Yeah.
Because I don't like out-and-out sci-fi too much. Although there's a movie we saw recently that I enjoyed. I can't say it was phenomenal.
What movie was that?
It was the Chris Hemsworth that's not Thor movie.
Spiderhead?
I enjoyed
We
that. That's
podcasted
sci-fi,
about that.
right?
That's sci-fi.
I liked that.
That's not quite lo-fi. That's Netflix sci-fi.
Yeah, that's a little over lo-fi.
But I thought our episode about that, which
But
was
it's
our
not over the
previous
top
episode,
sci-fi.
we didn't love it.
I liked it.
Okay.
I didn't love it. I liked it,
Well,
though.
you use sci-fi as a vehicle.
I'm
that-
surprised every time I even like a sci-fi movie.
Well, that's why I know you haven't read his stuff. That's why the writer Philip K. Dick is so good in the. He uses sci-fi to introduce bigger questions about like just the human condition, like the
Okay.
human experience,
Okay.
and that's what good sci-fi should do.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be all Star Wars all the time.
Okay.
So coherence. Here's the question: we've talked about the endless.
Yeah.
Either or. Which do you pick? Coherence or the endless?
Ooh. That's a hard choice.
Right? I know. I'm struggling with it. I'm grappling with the choice.
I would put them equal.
You can't do a draw.
Okay. I would go with,
One exists, the
Okay.
other one goes away forever.
okay, I'd go, I think people should see Coherence,
Of
but I
course.
would go with The Endless.
Whew.
Yeah, I would. I really like that movie.
My leanings would be pick the endless because of the cult nature of it.
And we like that. We love cults.
But there was something about the relatability of a dinner party.
The direct.
Having, you're a couple and you invite 3 other couples over.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were in this situation, like I'm never
They're
gonna,
realistic.
I'm never going to go visit a cult.
And decide to stay. No, that's true. You're not.
Right, like the endless. Though I love the time.
That's
I think
true.
the endless
The
is
relatability of
I think
Coherence
the endless
is
is
good.
a phenomenal
I'm
movie.
I'm thinking about the enjoyable nature of me watching either of them. I think The Endless was slightly more enjoyable to me.
So is
However,
all right.
Coherence is more relatable.
All right. So is the endless a better put together film? Yes. But is Coherence
More relatable.
the smarter film?
Probably.
I'm going to say yes. You know what I mean? I'm saying like as a filmmaker,
Does the back and forth go on slightly too much? Yes, where you're like completely confused at a point.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, but I think the mayhem and confusion of Coherence works to its advantage.
I enjoyed it for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Is the endless is a better as filmmakers. The Coherence, those 2 guys who make Moorhead and I forgot the other guy's name who made the endless.
Mm-hmm.
Better filmmakers. Yes.
Yeah.
Coherence,
and the fact
better
that they have
storytellers.
That whole other movie that's connected.
Resolution
to the Endless.
is connected,
That's
yeah.
pretty phenomenal that they.
But the
did
better
that.
storytellers, the better writers, the better writer is probably Coherence.
Probably, yeah.
Like
I agree with that. So which one are you picking?
I
Coherence.
pick Coherence.
Okay.
Either or.
Okay.
Like if I could only ever see one again, like I can only rewatch one of these ever.
Gotcha.
I'd probably rewatch Coherence. Because I feel I understood the endless better by the end than I did Coherence.
Yeah,
I feel
you
like
were
I still
still,
missed.
like-
I still missed some stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But
I just wish it didn't wrap it up so easily.
yeah, I agree. For sure.
And then there's vengeance.
Then there's vengeance.
Is this a pocket dial?
I have a story.
Can it wait?
No, I'm in Texas. I'm on my way back from a funeral.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's not someone I was close to.
But you flew to Texas for it?
Yes. It was a girl I hooked up with a few times.
You flew to Texas to attend the funeral of a random hookup.
Her family thought that we were more serious than I did.
You know what? This is a story.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's you. Your whole way of life. It's dating, it's hookup culture, how it enables disconnectedness, the selfishness, the emptiness, the hollowness.
That's not what I meant.
The lack of self-awareness.
Okay, that's not what I'm
It's
pitching.
really how sad your life is.
Okay, now you're fucking with
When you when you have a movie called Vengeance,
Yeah.
it automatically puts me into like a Marvel movie or something.
Really?
That name, Vengeance. Or like something more superhero-ish. Not the genre of movie we watched.
I mean, to me, I could see like a film noir. I think.
So I think the name might deceive people in going to see it.
Well, it's set in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And it's about kind of avenging a girl's
Someone's
death.
death. Yeah.
But I think the fact that it's
But
set
it's a
in,
comedy.
it's like a dark comedy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a drama / comedy / dark comedy / it's a lot of things, really.
So, and that's, yeah. The Office's
There's not one genre for this movie.
No. And that could be a plus or a minus to it.
Yeah.
The Office's BJ Novak.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a driving force behind The Office. Even though he played a small part in The Office, he was a sort of main writer, contributor to The Office, producer to The Office.
Yeah.
And this is sort of his, I think, his directorial debut as a director-writer for a feature film.
So, yeah. I mean, that was a draw for me because I like
Well, we opened
him.
with BJ Novak is likable.
Right.
And he's made a movie, like Justin Long, and he made a movie about investigating a girl's death. That the premise, right, is sort of like that movie, The Pallbearer, which we've talked about with.
is that he kind of didn't really date her, might have hooked up, slept with her,
It's a girl
gone
he
out a
knew.
couple times.
He's going to her funeral.
They texted back and forth a little bit.
And he decides to exploit the situation to create a podcast because he wants to make a podcast.
He's a writer.
Yeah, but he wants to be on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about making a podcast in this sort of about which is most popular, these true crime
type
podcasts.
Yeah, to get his name known as a writer.
So it's hitting in those genres, right? Like it's a vengeance film, it's a podcast film, it's
drama,
it's
heartfelt.
true crime thing, it's discover who you really are film, and it's this like fish out of water film, right?
Yeah.
He's the hipster New Yorker
It
guy.
kind of hits on all those avenues.
And he's
of a
in
movie.
Texas in this, blue state, red state
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Vengeance.
It was. So you want to say our feelings about it?
Go for it. We just watched it.
I thought it was great.
You thought it was great?
I did. I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it because it's not what you expect. It's a lot of different things mixed into one. BJ Novak is really likable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know where it's going. Even
Well,
if
the whole
you-
time he's there, he's just there because he's too polite to say, I don't know this.
I just
Girl,
loved
I'm just gonna show up for a
the
funeral.
fact that it was something different. It was funny. It was suspenseful at times.
What was funny about it?
Just the different, like, how they kept just the things that, okay, so I loved how they really, like, touched on things that people do and say now, like modern times, like the term 100%. Like, I cannot tell you how many podcasts I listen to and people I listen to talk
Heard.
that say that 100%. Really? Do you really agree with something 100%?
So it opens with a joke.
So they constantly say that, and I thought that was so relevant to just right now. I just thought that was the things they chose to capitalize on were very like subtle yet realistic, and I liked that aspect of it. Like the term 100% or the term what else would they say all the time in there? Well, just how how the guys were with like the girls, like, oh, I just remember her by Texas Redhead or Asian whatever. Showing that even though
Random House publisher.
well, okay, but showing that these New York guys who thinks they're so like open and liberal and big city, and then they're going and judging these Texas rednecks who are also very not open,
but very family and
but it's
centric.
kind of like paralleling them. Like, you're doing this with girls in your phone, aren't you just like them?
Yeah.
How they're, there's just very much a parallel in how closed-minded, even though you live in New York and you have this like more modern version of society, and you're still very, very closed-minded because you don't understand how other people exist and live and within a family culture, and why people are like your closed-mindedness can be just like somebody else's closed-mindedness.
Right, yeah, like the people,
in a different way.
Without getting too much into it, right? The sort of more liberal mindset of the urban New Yorker hipster, right?
Yeah.
Your quote open-mindedness can be closed-minded, isn't it? Closed-minded, or you're kind of being derivative of thinking about other people and other cultures.
Derivative of other people that have grown up in a world that's 100% different,
right, yeah.
100% different than you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, why do they think this way? Why are they like this? What's good about them, even though they might not think the way you do? And we saw what was good about them was their family-centric type nature.
Yeah. No, it opens with a bit which, like, thematically just seems like a little off from the film and the rest of the film, but it's like B.J. Novak's character, Ben, and who I can only assume is John Mayer playing John Mayer. His character's name is John.
Oh, okay. I'm watching it and I'm like, that has to be John Mayer, right?
Well, it is John Mayer.
And he actually acted really good at
But
that
I'm like,
scene.
is it John Mayer
really
acting as John Mayer in the way that Nicolas Cage is acting as Nicolas Cage in, like, the perceived vision?
Because they're at like a
Nicolas Cage.
fancy, uppity New York party.
But they're there, and the joke is in the opening bit, right? They're discussing how they should text certain girls, certain women.
Right.
Whether do I use one eye, two eye, or three eyes in the word hi?
Oh, yeah.
Do I use an exclamation and a question mark? Like they're kind of communicating a bit more subtly. That, though, I think subtle is a word we should use when describing this film, or not subtle when describing this film. Like the word subtlety is a word that surrounds this film.
Mm-hmm.
But early on, like, right, showing their sort of disconnectedness with people and relationships and themselves and happiness, and it feels a little bit like not an SNL skit, but like a little commentary on the jokes on them.
And when it kind of zooms out from it, you're like, okay, they're sitting at this big party and they're both like on their phones.
They're on their phones trying to interact with women to create relationships and justifying, like we all do, right? those justification as for the decisions and the way they live, they're justifying it,
Yeah.
right? When they sort of know that's not the right way.
Yeah.
The subtext of their conversation. And the movie, by BJ Novak going to Texas to be at the funeral of this girl that he vaguely knew, but the family thinks that he was the boyfriend.
Right.
But then
Well, the whole idea behind that is too, like, you don't know what kind of impact you have on someone. You know, the whole time he's thinking, like, she really liked him more than he really liked her, I guess.
Yeah.
But in the end, we kind of see maybe that wasn't the case, you know?
Maybe, yeah. No, the movie and I think, so this movie introduces a lot of interesting ideas, right? About
relevant ideas.
American culture and the cultural divide on everything, on where we're at. But the movie's interesting, right? Because the movie even comments on the problems this movie has, right? Because BJ Novak's character wants to tell this story about these themes and observations he's having about American culture, right? The lack of identity, this idea of red and blue, cultural divide, understanding who you are, right? But his podcast producer keeps telling him, you have great ideas, but you don't have a story to tell. At the end of the day, these themes are told through people's lives and people's stories.
So he attaches it to the story of Abilene.
So the reason he's there, the
girl who dies, who he vaguely knew, dated / slept with.
So the character struggles. He is right. He has the right observations about life. His observations about the current state of society and culture in America is correct. With social media and this lack of true identity, you're presenting a record of who you really are, but it's not an accurate depiction of who you are.
But he's a part of that.
Right? Yes. So he can articulate
the problem
in American society.
But he can't pull himself out of the problem.
He can't pull himself. He's his own he's in the way of his own problem. But he also can't attach a story to tell that. He just has to explain it to you. Right? He can't create a story that lets you as the viewer or listener, as in a podcast, or reader, as if he's a writer. He can't find, and that's what his podcast producer is telling him. You can't just tell us that. You have to. We have to learn it ourselves through a story. And this movie, Vengeance, has that same struggle.
As what he's trying to do in the movie.
Yes. Yeah. It has these great themes and ideas, but it has to keep telling you it instead of showing you it. A movie should show you. A movie is a visual storytelling device, right? So the whole movie, my problem with this film is it starts to tell you these themes and ideas about identity and the cultural divide, urban versus rural. But they never trust either themselves, as BJ Novak is a filmmaker and a writer, either him or Ashton Kutcher has to old man explain it to you. Like the movie never.
I disagree with your thoughts here. I disagree. And maybe I disagree with that. I felt it did it really well. I felt the emotion of him. I felt his learning his faults through the movie, through this family, through this experience, through him trying to do this podcast and realizing his faults. Yeah, there was some explaining that maybe wasn't necessary, but at the same time, I felt it was... I felt like it was good in the fact that I felt like he came to Texas feeling like he knew it all about cultural divide and da-da-da-da. Yet he meets this Ashton Kutcher dude who, he's kind of discredited pretty much everyone in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Not outwardly, but like he's smarter than them. He thinks.
You're saying the Ashton Kutcher character?
No.
BJ
The
Novak.
BJ Novak
Yeah,
character.
yeah. He's the know-it-all.
So I liked the fact that Ashton Kutcher he was kind of like, okay, this guy he kind of knows what he's talking about. There's a different perspective. Everyone in Texas doesn't have the same mentality. Like everyone's not
backwards.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like that was the purpose of that, for him to see. So
no, I agree. No, the Ashton Kutcher character didn't need to be this vehicle where
you felt like they used Ashton Kutcher to explain the concept of the movie.
Yes, and they did. Ashton Kutcher
and
had
I didn't feel that way as I was
Ashton
watching
Kutcher
it.
had two major monologues.
Uh-huh.
His first monologue was all about music and identity and the Spotify Discovery playlist.
Right.
And he asked BJ Novak's character, what's his favorite music right now? And BJ Novak pauses for a minute and he says, you don't know what your favorite music is because you go to Spotify and you do the Discovery playlist.
Which is
and
why we're listening to the Discovery playlist.
Why we're listening to the Discovery playlist. And he tells you, and he explains to him the problem with the current culture is we don't get that chance to discover things on our own.
Yeah, I see.
Because we're not exposed to new things. He over-explains this idea of the problem with society is because of the algorithms of Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and Spotify.
See, to me,
we're given we tell them what we like, and they feed back what we want to hear again, right? So that's the first Ashton Kutcher monologue.
Yeah.
The second Ashton Kutcher monologue at the end of the movie is the same monologue, but now saying we're so obsessed with social media that we only present records of ourselves, right? And Ashton Kutcher's character is a, quote, record producer, right?
Yeah.
He produces records. That we produce a story of ourselves through photographs on social media, our favorite songs on playlist, things we record videos of ourselves. And again, do I connect and agree with the Ashton Kutcher monologue? Of course. Like that is, BJ Novak has done a wonderful job of pinpointing where we're at as a society and things we need to correct and deal with as a 40-something-year-old man.
Yeah.
As is Ashton Kutcher. But when you hear an old man explaining, I agree with you. The film does a great job of pointing that stuff out. I don't need Ashton Kutcher or BJ Novak's characters telling me that. And the movie is so heavy-handed. My other last little point, then I'll stop talking about it because I'm also getting into mansplaining territory, which is the trap of that whole concept, which the movie does a wonderful job of explaining cultural appropriation when BJ Novak tells another character like what cultural appropriation is.
Yeah.
That's the problem with all of these conversations. It's a delicate balance, but the movie is just too heavy-handed. Like I felt like BJ Novak was high-fiving himself constantly. There's a constant discussion about identity. Somewhere in the middle of the film, near the end of it, he's talking to his podcast producer on the phone about identity and that this has really been about him and, like you said, his journey of understanding. She's agreeing with him, talking about personal identity. On her computer screen, she has Spotify's Discovery playlist pulled up.
Yeah.
And her reflection is in the computer screen as she's saying, do we ever really know who we are? And it's this Discovery playlist. It's her face showing back as she's talking about.
So you're saying that's all you need. You don't need the whole explanation.
And again, there's other examples. At one point when she's talking to BJ Novak, right, earlier in the movie, which is a better example of showing, not telling, she's wearing a face mask, a facial, right? It's basically suggesting her identity is masked, covered, not authentic, right? That we're all just we're wearing a mask, right? So when the movie shows things, I can appreciate the showing better than the telling. her wearing the mask, the facial, when she's talking to him about understanding himself and his place in it. Or even the heavy-handed scene of her reflection, the college film student scene of her reflection in the Spotify playlist.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ashton Kutcher's whole point is, we don't know music. We don't have favorite music anymore. Spotify regurgitates what we've told it we like, and it just gives us things we don't know the name of anymore, but sounds kind of what we like, so we accept it. And that's even like our Spotify playlist right now. Like, it's all agreeable.
Yeah.
But we couldn't tell you what it is.
Who's singing right now?
And so our taste and our preferences will never evolve.
Yeah.
Because we're just getting snippets of what we like.
Unless
told
you
right
stop
back,
and pay attention.
Told right back.
Yeah.
Or whether you stop and expand your thinking.
Yeah.
So I think the movie's trying to say those things. I just did not like that it had to take moments through BJ Novak's character and Ashton Kutcher's character to lecture to you about it. Like, let us, show us, don't tell us.
I can appreciate that. However, I 100% completely disagree because I...
100%?
Yeah. I have to say, my favorite character in the movie, Ashton Kutcher.
Wow, I think he was the worst character in the movie.
The whole time I'm watching him, I'm like...
Because he was simply a vehicle to explain it.
This is my turn to
I know,
talk.
but his role was simply...
I don't care.
Let me explain everything to you,
I don't care.
simple-minded viewer.
Here's the thing. No, that's not... The explanation part is not why I liked him. The part why I liked him because I feel like he did the explanation and the acting of what he did very well. Like, I'm like, Ashton Kutcher is back. Like, this is a good role for him.
I mean,
like, he does this.
His role could still have been to blow B.J. Novak's mind, which was his character's purpose. He could still blow his mind.
He reminded me of a Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Because Matthew McConaughey does that. Those long monologues explaining the whole
But
point
you can
of
still
the
do the
movie.
long monologue. A movie like The Bear, which we love, the show The Bear, had a really long monologue.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell us what to think. He told one of the episodes in The Bear, episode 7 or 8. Remember, he was in AA.
Yeah.
And he told a long story, right?
Yeah.
He sat there and told a long story about his brother's alcoholism.
Yeah.
And it was like a 5-minute scene, right? And he told that long story about his brother's issues with alcoholism and how he was unaware of stuff. And there was so much subtext in The Bear and that long scene.
Well, The Bear was phenomenal.
The Bear is another level. BJ
That's
Novak's
another
Vengeance
level.
doesn't even touch The Bear,
No,
let's be honest.
that's true.
But what I'm saying is, that was a scene where it stuck on that actor's face for The Bear. He gave a 5-minute monologue about a story.
Yeah, no, I understand
but
what you're saying.
You as the viewer took the subtext to understand it, where this movie, Vengeance,
I understand what you didn't like about it.
Spoon-fed you what to think.
I get
but anyway,
that.
go on. Ashton Kutcher's
Here is what I'm
give him one
saying
up.
is,
Yeah.
I am entranced by Ashton Kutcher. Hey, wait, can I talk?
It's just his
Can you
cowboy-
let me talk?
It's just this cowboy hat.
Can you let me
It's
talk?
his cowboy hat and his Oscar that he's wearing.
First of all, he is, I'm not trying to be, he is gorgeous. You're like, oh my God.
He had a mustache.
This guy, I don't care. I'm not a mustache girl, but he is gorgeous in this movie. He's tall, gorgeous. You're like, are you in your 40s even? Like, oh my God. And the way he's acting these monologues, I'm like, this is not your 70s show Ashton Kutcher
No,
anymore.
but he's an old
like,
man complaining about the clouds.
He doesn't
Complaining
look
about,
old.
but he's complaining about the youth of today.
I don't care. I adored him in this movie. I am in love with Ashton Kutcher now. He's my next movie crush. Movie guy crush. Like, I am. I'm sorry, you don't agree. I understand.
I think Ashton Kutcher
understand what you're saying.
I
how
think
there's
he was good in it. I just felt, and I thought Ashton Kutcher was really good in it. I just wish he didn't have to sit there and talk for 5 minutes
I understand
explaining
that.
the movie to us.
I understand that, but I actually enjoyed his monologues, like as part of the movie. That didn't bother me, and that does bother me in a lot of movies. But for some reason, in this movie,
Let us figure it out
Ashton
ourselves.
Kutcher was doing it, I guess it didn't bother me.
Let us
I don't
figure it
know.
out. Let us, like, basically, they're like, oh, if you haven't been paying attention, this is what the movie's about.
No, I get that. I get that. But for me,
As a book, it would have worked great.
personally, did not take away from the movie at all. I really enjoyed it. I think Ashton Kutcher just put it at another level. Like his acting compared to BJ Novak, great.
Well, of course. No, Ashton Kutcher was the star of this movie, no question.
For sure. Like he was great in this movie. And
no, when he first showed up, I even had the thought of, because Ashton
he's a
Kutcher,
star. He looks like a star in this
Ashton
movie.
Kutcher doesn't show up until about 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
And I was like, not that I wasn't enjoying the movie, but I thought this movie would be better than it was going into it. And that might have been my fault for bringing in.
See, I didn't think it would be as good as I
See,
thought
I think
it
going
was.
in with
we
low
have completely opposite.
I went in with high expectations.
I went in with low.
So and I should have went that. So when Ashton Kutcher showed up, I actually had the thought of, thank God we finally have a Tom Cruise caliber actor showing
like
up.
a good act. Like he put
Someone who just controls the screen.
He controlled the screen.
Of course, of
like
course.
he definitely did. And I like BJ Novak. And I even thought the girls in the movie, the sisters, were good for their role.
They were.
And the mom of the Abilene.
I thought the brother who played El Stupido was really
He
great.
was really good too. However, when Ashton Kutcher was in this scene, it was like a movie star.
Of course.
You know, and he dominated the movie at that point.
But you know why Kutcher was in the film.
No.
This is why I said to myself when I left, because, I mean, I don't know much about it, and I'm not going to research it. On YouTube, occasionally, you get these, like, random clickbaity things.
Mhm.
Like, one of them was, why Hollywood won't cast BJ Novak in any films. That's like a clickbait YouTube click I've seen lately. I don't know anything about BJ Novak other than The Office and now Vengeance. And he wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
But BJ Novak got his start on a show called Punk'd.
Oh, a lot of people did.
Yeah.
Got their start on
Dax Shepard, you're a big fan.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Big fan.
So BJ Novak did get his big start on
Punk'd.
Ashton Kutcher's Punk'd. So then that makes sense that why Kutcher is in
Of course.
this
Yeah.
movie. Side note.
I liked it so much more than I anticipated. Wow. I did. I have to say, I was in 100%.
100%. That phrase is said so many times.
A million times in that movie. And I love that they say that because I'm not a huge proponent of that phrase.
No, which is, it's a joke. Because
it's a joke. Because
when he
people
gets
say
to
that a
Texas
lot.
and he says 100% and the person says, 100%? Really?
Yeah. Like,
and he's like, yeah.
You're
100%.
all in. I liked it a lot. And I didn't go in expecting
Well, I'm
to.
glad you liked it because my reason why my expectations were high was, as BJ Novak's character says at one point in the movie, nobody goes to theaters anymore, right? Because he has this another monologue about, again, he's not wrong, but just because you're not wrong, it's sometimes the way you deliver it. People don't like to be told, and especially if you're a white male, you can't tell people things. This is the way things are these days. But he says, time is different for everybody. Like, time is different. We have a time divide is one of the arguments, right, of the film. We don't have a cultural divide or a geography divide. We have a time divide. We all operate on our own times. And he says, no one sees films in theaters anymore, which we saw the film in the theater.
We did.
So part of my high expectation was, yeah, we saw Nope in the theater, and we've seen bigger films in the theater. But we picked Vengeance over, say, a film like Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Bullet Train is definitely a theatrical, a movie you go to see on the big screen. I was invested in Vengeance because I want to see movies, even though I didn't love the way the movie was told. I felt they told more than they shown. I wanted Vengeance to be a movie like, I want those style of movies to be in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So I went in with, please be really good. Because I want more films like this on the big screen. Because you don't need to have a 2.5 hour movie of fighting someone on a train.
No.
With choreographed fight scenes.
I think that's why I liked it so much.
Though I am interested in seeing Bullet
every
Train.
time I go see a big movie hit, it's like fighting, shooting.
Well, even Nope, which Nope
and
was
I hate,
fun.
I don't love that too much, you know?
Did
Nope, I liked Nope.
Nope
It was good.
was fun and tried to say some things, which I
Wasn't
think
great,
it
but it
missed
was
the
good.
mark. I would rather see more films like Vengeance on. I like there to be a balance, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a Nope and Bullet Train, but for every Nope and Bullet Train, there's a Vengeance style movie in the theater.
And that's why I liked it a lot.
So I want to see smaller stories on a bigger screen.
But
so
you don't want
in,
them explaining it to you.
I
know.
Just show it to us. Don't tell us so much.
I
And
didn't
that's
mind
why-
for this movie particularly. I do mind that in some movies. For this movie particularly, I didn't mind it. I thought it was more heartfelt and added to the kind of understanding between the two divides. And I didn't mind it too much.
And then not to get into to talk about the ending. But then, there's plenty of things I liked about it. But then it's also like, oh yeah, this movie's called Vengeance for a reason.
I didn't think the title fits the movie, but
It does eventually.
it does. I just didn't like the
As a
title.
rule, BJ Novak's character, as a personal boundary, avenging people's death is not something he does.
Right.
Which is one of the lines in the movie.
Yeah.
It's a good joke. All right, so Vengeance is a podcast movie.
Mm-hmm.
Come On is a podcast movie starring Joaquin Phoenix. We've been doing This or That. Which one is your This or That?
Vengeance. 100%.
So if you had to pick a movie, a podcast movie, Vengeance wins?
100%. Yes, because I just liked Come On. It annoyed me. There were aspects of it I enjoyed, but overall, it's not a movie I enjoyed.
I agree. No,
And
Vengeance.
I really liked Vengeance.
And I want to say this. I stuck on the over-explaining part of the movie. Like, I don't need long monologues. I'm all for long monologues. Just let us pull out the subtext.
Yeah, no, we get that.
Let us pull it out
I
ourselves.
understand.
The viewer. So I'm okay with that. But no, I would prefer Vengeance over a Come On any day.
We know that. That's easy.
And
So-
there was plenty of movies, plenty of stuff I liked about this movie. I do have an affinity with an A, for movies set in Texas.
Really?
Like this sort of stark Texas landscape, right? Like there's a movie called Dancer, Texas that I really liked that came out a long time ago. So I also like movies set in that locale. So there's a lot of things I liked about this movie.
It's funny
I just
because
wished
I
wished
liked.
it was
Yeah. Go ahead.
right, there's the scene in the movie where his producer tells him, don't step on people's lines. Let them tell their story. Don't try to explain it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt BJ Novak, like part of the story, the point of this movie was you get in your own way sometimes. Even though you know what the solution is, you still are your own worst enemy.
I get that, but you're wrong. Everyone should see it. It's really good. But no, you're not wrong. I understand where you're coming
I just
from.
think BJ Novak,
I think it doesn't ruin the movie,
two
though.
films from now, he
It doesn't.
has a great movie.
So what I also liked, now I'm forgetting my thought, was the parallel. Oh, okay, was the parallel of, him. You know, the whole time you're kind of like, oh well, this podcast is going to exploit
I haven't thought about
the family.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of going into this as like, he's not going into it to exploit the family, but he's creating characters of the family and whatnot. But the reality is, this family is like a family he's never had. Like, it's, he falls kind of, they take care of him like nobody has ever taken care of him. And the parallel between that, I feel like, is pretty profound. And they don't, that's the part of it that they don't explain to you in words, but that they show you. And I thought that was pretty like heartfelt and profound. There's a lot of themes in the movie that you might not pick up, but anyway, that's why I really like that about it. I like that they made that parallel and kind of continued with the parallel. And you were able to feel it without it being explained.
No, it does the family element, they do a really good job.
Mm-hmm. I like it. And you really like this family, even though they're supposed to be like eccentric and...
No, he makes the line that I'm close with my family, I just don't see them that much.
Mm-hmm. And
right?
they're kind of like, what?
So he does understand that a little bit. No, I agree that's there. One thought I had, like, this is the movie, right? We've seen this too with like Only Murders in the Building, that Hulu show with Steve Martin and Martin Short, but we bailed on it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this would made a better movie, right? Because one of the intriguing parts of Vengeance is he goes in thinking he's going to do one podcast thing, right? And he's going to call it Dead White Girl. And it's about how...
Like a true crime.
True crime. If a white girl gets murdered, everybody cares. And here's just yet another dead white girl in Texas, and it's going to be a true crime podcast hit. Then they change the direction, and it's about now the girl. Like, now it's about a person. And they change the name. It's no longer going to be Dead White Girl. It's Abilene. Abilene is the new name of the podcast. And then by the end of the movie, it's more, oh no, this has been a story about myself, him, Ben, and his personal growth and his journey. So some of it, I was like, just the way the movie was structured, I was like, it might have been interesting if a different version of the movie was made where it was almost presented as more like podcast form. Like the first third of the movie, it's the Dead White Girl podcast. Like they're presenting it, and then all of a sudden it stops, shifts gears, rewinds, and now it's, kind of thinking about The Last Duel, right, where it's told three different perspectives, and then it stops and like, oh no, now let's tell it from the perspective of Abilene. Like
Abilene.
Why do I keep saying Abilene? Abilene. It's her perspective, and then this 2/3 in, stop, rewind, and now it's the Ben perspective. It's been about his journey, right? Because they give these little hints of, here's the podcast intro. You're listening to Dead White Girl. That could have been interesting as another little take. Like, it's just a way to tell the story without having those long monologues of explanation.
Yeah, the only predictable part I thought was when he deletes it. Well, it's at the end. Oh. Maybe we should cut that out.
Well, we'll leave it in, but
no,
he...
There was, it's a somewhat predictable ending, which is
really
whatever.
I thought the ending sort of was a 180 of where it was going.
See, not me. We watched a different movie.
No, we watched the same movie. We had
from different perspectives. Yeah, which is what this podcast is all about, honey. What? This is the epitome of our podcast right now.
So
we're hitting it on target.
So we said we would pick this over Come On, Come On. I agree.
Avoid it.
So now
rent it or stream it. Stream/rent it.
Which one are you saying avoid?
Avoid Frank and Lola.
I agree. My avoid is Frank and Lola. Which one are you streaming? Meaning it's it's streaming on a service you already pay for. It's free.
Stream Coherence.
See, I'm saying stream
Pay
Vengeance.
for Vengeance.
I say pay for Coherence, stream Vengeance, avoid Frank and Lola.
Okay. We can
And
agree
you're
to
saying-
disagree. I'm saying avoid Frank and Lola.
Yep.
Stream Coherence. Pay for Vengeance.
All right, well, there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're saying basically watch Coherence and
Vengeance.
Don't watch Frank and
And
Lola.
decide what you think.
Though part of me feels like you should watch Frank and Lola.
I mean, watch it if you just
No, I
want
say
to
don't.
watch
I say
something.
don't watch it unless you watch The Voyeurs and you're like, I kind of want some more of that. Watch Frank and Lola.
Less steamy. More of that. Less steamy. Nobody wants less steamy after Voyeurs.
Voyeurs
right?
is ridiculous. We never podcast about it. That movie is ridiculous.
Listen. Anyway, let's just move on.
We already did.
Yeah. So that was good. This has been a movie-filled weekend.
You didn't think there would be much to talk about Frank and Lola. And
I thought you
Coherence.
loved Vengeance
Oh, I didn't. No.
because you kept bringing up things like.
I brought up things because I wanted it to be more than it was.
I was not expecting
I put
it to be
so
as much
much
as it
stock
was.
into BJ Novak and this film.
I love BJ Novak now.
This-
and I am in love with Ashton Kutcher
To
now.
me, it was the savior of small cinema. Vengeance was. I was stoked that it got more than a week in the theater run, right? This is week 2 in the theater.
I loved it.
I was stoked that it had a poster, that it had
Thoroughly enjoyable.
And I was, though I think for young people or people in their early 30s, they might be like, yeah, that's what we're saying. That's the problem with culture. That's the problem with Trump era
I think you're
America.
mocking now.
A little bit.
Don't.
But I'm
Don't
saying,
do that.
I'm saying people who just want it spoon-fed to them.
I think it hits the target with 20s and 30s.
But I think because it over-explains it, it might alienate some of its So I don't want to get into it.
Again,
I think
in
it's
this
made
movie,
for the.
I don't mind the over-explaining.
But I'm saying, okay, look at it.
It doesn't need it, but the acting of it is so good. That
One
it's
last
fine.
thought for a movie that's trying to explain the cultural divide with things, like say New York versus Texas, right?
Yeah.
The New Yorkers watch it and they go, "Oh yeah, I get it." Yeah. The Texans who watch it might be like, "Huh. I don't know if they're making fun of us and mocking us, or are we on the wrong side or right side?"
No,
You see what
I think
I'm saying?
the
I don't think
beautiful
it does
thing
a good
is
enough
I puts
job.
it both in a good light.
I don't
at
think
the
it does a
end.
good enough job of the humility side of, though BJ Novak's character, the urban liberal New Yorker, hipster, though he has
I'm gonna
character
say liberal in quotes, right?
quotes,
'Cause-
though I think he has character growth.
Mhm.
I don't think it does a, if that's the intention of the film, I don't think it does a good enough job of saying, let's boil it down to basics as human beings that we're all kind of struggling with the same things as
Yeah,
there's
I
benefit
don't think
and
it
value.
shows like enormous growth in his personality, but I think it shows like some growth.
Some.
Like some
That's what I
growth.
mean.
Yeah.
And I think I did have some of the humor in those type of movies. The joke should always be at the fish out of water's expense. It should always be at BJ Novak's expense, right? Because he's the fish out of water. He's the New Yorker in Texas,
Mhm.
right? But I felt there were still too many bits that still painted the hometown Texan residents
I don't.
as the joke.
So I don't.
The
I
Whataburger,
definitely
the
don't.
Whataburger, the
No, no,
rodeo,
no.
the
I don't. And
Some
I'm
of that
going to tell
stuff.
you why. Because I think what the Whataburger scene showed them was that BJ Novak was like, this is good. This is part of their culture. This is good. He loved it and accepted it and embraced it. And it showed, I feel like at the end, it showed like it put the Texas family and the Texas kind of like
No, that they
being
were in
in
the
a
right.
good
No, it
light.
showed that they were in the right. He was in the wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I don't feel, there were that except for like all they care about is football, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
scenes.
yeah. That's what I mean. Some of that stuff.
Some of that was, but in the end, what it did show was no, there's more depth to what's on the outside of the Texas family or whatever, the kind of rural type family. In the end, I thought it showed more depth into that, even though it highlighted some of the stereotypes and things that people think or say about that culture. For me, I didn't feel it was derogatory in the end, like once it was wrapped up,
Yeah.
But
No, I think it's.
I don't know.
I think the intentions of the film were good.
Yeah.
Always. I think that's my overall issue with it. The execution on a critical level, it still felt amateurish. Like he just didn't quite nail the landing.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't question his thing. I don't. I mean, and what he's tackling is hard to do as well. And I'm not saying it's an easy task. So maybe I commend BJ Novak for trying it.
Yeah.
It probably would have been better in a written form or heck, a podcast. But as a movie, it was ambitious. I think he was maybe tackling on more than he could handle at this point in his artistic and professional career. That's all.
I disagree, but we'll agree to disagree. I think he did a great job.
Yeah. Well, hey, there you go.
There you go. Marriage and movies.
All right. So I think our next episode, hopefully, will be the 1991 episode,
Yeah, because we just have to watch one more.
The Silence of the Lambs. We have watched Frankie and Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
We have watched My Own Private Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
We have watched Boys in the Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And we have watched
Pretty Woman.
Thelma and Louise.
Oh, Thelma and Louise.
Pretty Woman was 1990.
Last time, yeah.
So hopefully that'll be our next episode. We'll talk about those 5 films and we'll just share our own rankings, 1 through 5.
Yeah, just like we
those.
did last time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we'll move
for
on
sure.
to 1992.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Okay. That was a quick bye. Bye.